अखण्डे सच्चिदानन्दे निर्विकल्पैकरूपिणि स्थिते द्वितीयभावेऽस्मिन् कथं पूजा विधीयते। पूर्णस्यावाहनं कुत्र सर्वाधारस्य चासनम् स्वच्छस्य पाद्यमर्घ्यं च शुद्धस्याचमनं कुतः। निरञ्जनस्य किं धूपैर्दीपैर्वा सर्वसाक्षिणः निजानन्दैकतृप्तस्य नैवेद्यं किं भवेदिह। स्वयं प्रकाशमानस्य कुतो निराञ्जनं विभोः अन्तर्बहिश्च पूर्णस्य कथमुद्वासनं भवेत्। एवमेव परा पूजा सर्वावस्थासु सर्वदा एकबुद्ध्या तु देवेशे विधेया ब्रह्मवित्तमैः। आत्मा त्वं गिरिजामतिः सहचरा प्राणाः शरीरं गृहम् पूजाते विविधोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधिस्थितिः। सञ्चारः पदयोः प्रदक्षिणविधिः स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो। यद्यत् कर्म करोमि तत्तदखिलं शम्भो तवाराधनम्।
Namaste everyone. Welcome to this special session on the occasion of Shankara Jayanthi. First of all, if you can see this properly, if you can listen to my audio properly, please put in yes in the chat. Are you able to hear this properly? Thank you. Now, first of all, a very happy Shankara Jayanti. It's an auspicious day. Swati says there are some breaks. Okay. Is my audio perfectly clear and audible to everyone? Please put in clear if it is clear. Okay, thanks. very happy Shankara Jayanthi. It's an auspicious day. We will understand the significance of this day. We will understand the significance of the person. He's not even a person, the power that was born on this day, because of which we have something called Advaita today. We have something called as Sanatana Dharma today. And before we begin, let's start with a small prayer and a peace invocation. Please close your eyes and just be with me. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from untruth to truth. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Let's stay in silence for a moment and then we'll begin. With that, you can open your eyes and we will start with the introduction to Adi Guru Shankaracharya. And to be very honest with you, whatever we call Hinduism today, whatever we call Sanatana Dharma today, the wisdom of Vedanta, the wisdom of Gita, all the temples and everything that you see, that is the essence of the culture that we call Sanatana Dharma. The even what we are doing at Advaita Conscious Society, the conscious creation, all the frameworks we have. There are many of our members here today. So all the things that we are doing would not have been possible if it was not for Shankaracharya. There was a period, there was a dark period in Indian history where the culture sort of degraded. And because of various things that happened, because of greed, because of misuse of power, because of exploitation, because of discrimination, and lot of things, our culture sort of forgot, you know, the essence of truth that were given to us by the rishis, and we got influenced by various ideologies. There were invasions that happened. There was different attacks that happened from the external world. There was a wave of Buddhism that took over, and even that happened in a very different way, where the temples were being destroyed, the scriptures were being destroyed and distorted, and then Islamic invasion happened. So many things were happening, because of which the Sanatana Dharma, the wisdom of Vedanta, was at the brink of extinction. It is said that almost 90% of the population and the 90% of what the Sanatana Dharma was completely destroyed. And it almost felt like this would not survive, this culture would not survive. That was a crucial period where Adi Shankara was born. And he is said to be the incarnation of Shiva himself, the God himself, who took a form to re establish Dharma. Today, we will go a little deep. For beginners, it might be a little technical. What Advaita Vedanta is, how is it different from different other schools of thought? Why is it important for humanity? Why was it important 1,000 years ago when Shankara was there? And why is it important today? And why is it important for the future, for centuries to come, as AI advances, as humanity evolves technologically? Why Advaita Vedanta is important is something that we will understand today. We will go a little bit deep into philosophy. We will talk about the story of Shankaracharya, because this is something that we need to understand to understand the significance of his work and what Advaita Vedanta is actually about. If you're with me, please put in yes in the chat. Right? With that, we will begin with the story. And just a moment. Yeah. So, the theme that we have kept for you today is to wake up to the real you through the life, through the debates and the teachings of Adi Shankaracharya. Ultimately, all you need to do in life is to wake up to who you actually are. You don't have to gain anything from the world, you don't have to achieve something, you don't have to get something from outside. All you have to do is to go within and find out who you actually are. This is the only teaching of Adi Shankara. This is the highest teaching there is. This is the most simplest teaching there is. This is all there is. Shankara said that you are infinite within. You are truly powerful within. And within you, there is this unlimited, inexhaustible source of abundance, fullness, awareness, happiness. Everything basically that you're looking for in the outside world is actually within you. It's already there, waiting for you to see it. And if you just wake up to the real you, not the you that you think you are, not the name that your parents give, not the name that, you know, not the name that your parents gave, not the body that you have, not the mind that you have, but the real you, the spirit within, the consciousness within. That is the solution for everything. And we will come to the Q&A towards the end, so please, all the questions we will go today for as long as it is required, because we are very busy. We do these live streams on YouTube very rarely, so I'll spend as much of time needed. If you want to ask me specific questions about your life, about Vedanta, if you're a professional or an entrepreneur, if you're stuck somewhere, how conscious creation can help, all the questions you can keep it towards the end. Right now, we started with the Shanti mantra. We covered this already. And that is all the Shanti mantra also said, right? Take us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. This is the ultimate goal of life. This is the simplest prayer, but it is the highest prayer there is. And this session for today is divided into three parts. First, we will talk a little bit about the story and the debates that Shankaracharya took part in, right? Like his how his story unfolded. We will briefly understand this. And then we will look at Nirvana Shatakam and the deeper meaning and the philosophical framework that he uses in this particular work to point us back towards our true self. And then we will come to a powerful meditation that we use at Advaita Conscious Society. We have a lot of systems, and today we will practice oneness meditation together in this auspicious occasion. We will tune into that energy, that knowledge, that wisdom of oneness, and then we will, for all of you who are new here, we will also briefly understand towards the end what Advaita Conscious Society is and the journey within. Right? This is the context. And Shankara is the Adi Guru, right? That is why we call him the Adi Guru Shankaracharya. And whenever, at least for me, whenever I hear the word guru or a teacher, now that is what comes to my mind. Because whatever school of thought you subscribe to today, whatever it is, right? You look at any number of organizations that are operating in India and across the world right now that are based on Sanatana Dharma. Every organization uses the works, the chants, the shlokas, the prayers of Adi Shankara. His works are so predominant, his works are so deep, his works are so powerful that even the yogic schools and organizations rely on his prayers and works. Even different other schools of thought, everybody comes back to Shankaracharya for his teachings, for his works, and for everything that he has contributed for Sanatana Dharma. And we cannot call him a man, we cannot call him a person. He was beyond that, because if you study his work, we cannot even digest that such an amount of work was possible in a matter of 1 to 2 decades, right? It is unfathomable what he did. That's what I keep thinking, right? Like now we have YouTube, we have Instagram. I can sit in my studio in my office and I can create one video, and a million people can watch it across the world. But 1,000 years ago, that was not the case. When Shankara took the sankalpa to unite India, to unite the culture, which was fragmented, which was divided, which was fighting with each other. There was so many sub schools of thought which were not in alignment with the truth. He had to walk to every city, to every village, to every part of India on his foot. And it is said that his feet was bleeding at night. His At night, during the night times, his disciples were actually wiping his feet with the blood, because he was so exhausted. He was so not exhausted, his energy was at a different level, but physically the body suffers when we put it through so much of activity. Now that is the immense contribution that he gave to us, right? Because of his work, because of that intensity, because of that dedication, we have what we have today. And today India at one level is united. Although we have so many challenges, although there are so much of conflicting beliefs within our culture, at one level there is still something called as Sanatana Dharma, and Advaita Vedanta is now more popular and stronger than ever. And the reason is this: he restitched the entire civilization. At the age of 8 years, he took renunciation, he took sannyasa. He said, I don't want to marry anyone, I don't want to do anything for myself from this point in time. The rest of my life will be for the discovery and the assimilation of truth, and for the spreading of this truth, and to give this wisdom to the rest of India and to the rest of the world. His entire lifespan was around 32 years of age. At the age of 32, he leaves his body. Nobody knows what happened to his body. It is said that in the Kedar, in certain peaks of Himalayas, he just disappeared, and nobody could trace him after that. After 32 years of age, he established the four mathas in the four corners of India, and there are 12 important works. He has composed hundreds and hundreds of works throughout his life, devotional works, intellectual works, the bhashyas, the sutras. So we'll briefly understand this. And that became the foundation for the revival of Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma. Right? With this, let's come to a little bit about the story of Shankara. He was born in Kaladi, a village on the banks of Purna River in Kerala, in the southern India. His parents were Shivaguru and Aryamba, and they were the Nambudri Brahmins. The story goes like this: they were childless for many, many years. They performed various rituals, various pujas. They were very deep devotees of Lord Shiva, but still nothing was happening. But at one point in time, Shiva appears, the god appears in the temple, and he gives them two options. Either you can choose a son who lives very, very long, but doesn't contribute anything to society, basically a normal average person in a way, or I will bless you with someone who can change everything, who can take this entire culture and take it to a new direction, but he will be having a limited lifespan. He will be having a short lifespan, and the parents choose quality over quantity, right? Because what is the meaning of life if we live for 100 years or even 200 years if we can, and if we don't do anything in life, if we just eat, sleep, and reproduce, and if we live unconsciously, what is the point of such a life? Instead of that, they chose a life of quality for their son, and so the prodigy was born. By the age of 8, he had mastered all the Vedas, the Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda. It is said that in his dreams, the Vedas used to appear and assimilate within him. So by the age of 8, he was already well versed with the Vedas, and he developed this keen inclination towards renunciation. He wanted to dedicate his life for this mission, for this purpose, for this truth. And one tragedy happens in his life, which is his father, Shivaguru, dies very early. And he was basically raised by his mother, and he spends a lot of his time in gurukuls, in with his teachers, studying different scriptures like the students and the pupils of that period. And initially his mother was opposed to sannyasa, right? She obviously, right, what mother would want her child to not marry, to live a life of monk without owning anything, without having anything, without having a family? Basically, a life of sannyasa is a very difficult life, and obviously his mother was opposed to that. But there is a story that goes like this: he planned something, and while he was playing in the river, a crocodile catches hold of him, and his mother became extremely concerned, and she begins to cry and shout out loud to save his son. And basically, Shankara says, Mother, the crocodile is telling me that if you grant me sannyasa, if you allow me to be a sannyasi and a monk, it will allow me to live. Right? And this is a story that goes like this, an interesting story where then his mother agrees to this, and then he becomes a sannyasi, and so begins his journey of first going deep into the scriptures. After this, he goes to his guru, Gaudapadacharya. Sorry, Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya. Shankaracharya's guru was Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya, and his guru was Gaudapadacharya, and his guru is said to be Shukadeva, and his guru is said to be Vedavyasa himself. So, many times in our channel, and people ask me in the comments and through emails, there are so many interpretations of Vedanta, right? There is Advaita, there is Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita, Shuddha Advaita, Achinta Bheda Abheda, and so on. There are so many schools of thought. So why is Advaita Vedanta important, or why is Advaita Vedanta the true path, or why should we follow that, or what is the reason our mission and our work is based on that? The answer is very, very simple. See, we can have any number of schools of thought, right? Tomorrow another guru can come and he can establish his own philosophy, his own school of thought. He can call it with a different name, and he can have his own followers. And in fact, many organizations happen like this within the world, and there are many schools of thought, and there is nothing wrong in that. But that cannot be compared with Advaita Vedanta, because Advaita Vedanta is an unbroken lineage of Guru Shishya Parampara. Advaita Vedanta is an unbroken chain. For thousands and thousands of years, we can trace back to the lineage of Advaita Vedanta. Like I mentioned, Adi Shankaracharya's guru was Govinda Bhagavatpada, his guru was Gaudapada, his guru was Shukadeva, his guru was uh, Sri Vedavyasa. Like that, we can go back for thousands and thousands of years. But the other schools of thought cannot claim that. It was in some way or form established by certain philosophers or teachers. So, at least from my perspective, they don't hold the same validity and the same credibility as Advaita Vedanta. When we say Sanatana Dharma, and when we say, an unbroken lineage, this is it. Advaita Vedanta is that lineage, and Shankaracharya sort of revived that. Shankaracharya in no way invented Advaita or created Advaita Vedanta. He just revived it. Majority of society had missed that, had forgotten that, and other schools of thought, invasions had happened, so many distortions had happened, and he just popularized it and he systemized it through his works, which we will understand. And this is a rough estimate of when he lived. He lived between 788 and 820 CE, and the four directions, uh, the four mathas that he established was in Sringeri, which is very close to where I stay in Shimoga. Sringeri Sharada Peetham is an ancient matha, very reputed institution, and for each Vedas, Shankaracharya establishes a matha, a place of study and worship. And he designed an entire system such that if a student or a seeker has to study all the four Vedas, then he had to travel to all the four mathas. So, in one way, his vision was to connect India, India that was divided and fragmented. His vision was to connect and unify the country so that everybody can travel to the four mathas and to gain the comprehensive knowledge of the Vedas. And in the south, there is Shringeri Mata. In the west, there is Dwarka Sharda Peetam for Samaveda. And in east, there is Govardhana Matha and of Puri. And in north, there is Jyotir Mata in Badrinath. And his first matha that he established was in Shringeri. It is considered as the prominent matha. And Shankaracharya appoints his senior most disciple, that is Sureshwaracharya, to take care of this matha. Right? And let's understand the context. Let's understand where India was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, like I mentioned in the beginning of the session, India was fragmented, India was divided, the culture was degrading, there was the caste system had turned very, uh, you know, ugly because of so many things. What happens is a system may be designed intelligently for a very valid reason, but human greed and power corrupts people, and so many things had happened. Apart from that, external influences had happened. Buddhism had taken over the landscape of India. The temples were being destroyed and they were converted into Buddhist stupas and the places of worship for Buddha. Although Lord Buddha himself never asked for this or he didn't want this, the followers of Buddha, they became segregated into different schools of thought, and they became, active in various different ways, and that affected Sanatana Dharma in a very negative way. Apart from that, there was Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is a certain aspect of the Vedas which focuses on rituals, on Swadharma, on basically the four ashrama dharmas of life: to get married, to raise children, to uh, you know uh, to then evolve spiritually. So there and it was also more about ritualistic worship, more dualistic worship, and yagna, homa, and all that. And Shankaracharya in no way denied any of it. He still speaks about the significance of upasanas, but he showed the world how there is a higher truth. There is something that we are missing as society. So there was Buddhism on one hand, there was Purva Mimamsa, there was sectarian wars within Sanatana Dharma, and the Vaishnavas, the Shaivas, the Shaktas, different sects within Sanatana Dharma were worshipping different deities, and they were fighting with each other. It was not congruent, they were not fitting together. Apart from that, there was Jainism that was flourishing in West and South. There was tantric extremes, sacrificing animals and the extreme tantric rituals. That was another aspect of it. And then Vedanta itself was completely missed. Vedanta was practiced and was understood by a very small number of people and rishis somewhere in the Himalayas and in some parts of Gurukulas, like Gaudapada, and the certain segment of society, a very very small segment of society, understood Advaita Vedanta, but as a whole, the entire of India had missed it, had forgotten it. So this was the situation. And then came Shankaracharya. Narendra says Greeks had invaded by the time of Shankara, not Muslims. Based on my study, even Islamic invasion at some level had begun. Not in any major way, but in some parts, in some way, in based on I remember reading this somewhere, but I'm not sure. So in 24 working years, even 24 years is not accurate here, because even in this until 80 years of age, he was with his mother. After that, even when he took sannyasa, he spends a certain amount of time with his guru in Gurukula, with Sri Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya. After that, he begins his journey of spreading Vedanta. So, within just a matter of 2 decades, I just want you to imagine the scale of what he did. Just to give you the context, Buddhism had taken over India for 1,000 years before Shankara. So before Shankaracharya came, for around, I'm speaking very roughly here, for around 1,000 years, Buddhism had spread completely, and basically the gap between Gautam Buddha and Adi Shankara was roughly 1,000 years. So the entire landscape of India, majority of India were shifting towards Buddhism. What Buddhism took 1,000 years to achieve, he completely reverses it in a matter of a decade. Now, this is completely unimaginable. At a time where there was no social media, where he could not publish a book and millions of people could reread it, where he had to physically walk to every village, every place, he had to walk through the forest, through the mountains. Imagine a young boy in his teenage doing this work. And he did this in a systematic way. He out argued every major rival school, and he fought them intellectually. He sat with them and he debated them. There was no forced conversion. India doesn't know anything about forced conversions until the external invasions happened. Whenever somebody converted to another school of thought or another religion, they used to do it voluntarily in ancient India. They used to do it because they believed in it. When somebody, you know, in ancient India, from being a Hindu, let's say he was moving towards Buddhism, he was doing it voluntarily, right? And so Shankaracharya, what he did was he began his work through debates. Intellectually, he is, as far as I know, the only philosopher at his league, at his level. Nobody can match him with the intellectual capability of synthesizing things and debating things and arguments and counter arguments. So he out-argued every major rival school. He composed 3 canonical bhashyas: the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, the Bhagavad Gita Bhashya, and the 10 principal Upanishads Bhashya. He basically gave his thorough interpretation and frameworks to how to understand Bhagavad Gita, how to understand the Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. He built 4 inter-regional mathas as institutional anchors for the culture. He organized wandering monks, and he started an order called the Dasami Sampradaya, or the Dasami order, and he composed various works, so many works that I can go on naming and naming, and it will not be over. From Viveka Chudamani to Atma Bodha to Tattva Bodha, and the works that we focus on at the Self Mastery at Advaita Conscious Society, the Aparoksha Anubhuti. Uh, so many works he begins to compose to take this truth to the world, to help people understand the essence of reality, basically to help people overcome suffering. Now you might be wondering, if you are new here, you might be wondering, why are we discussing the intellectual aspects of this? How is it relevant for my life? All of this is very relevant for your life, because this is about your life. The entire work of Shankara was for you. And the principle is simple. You are suffering, right? You're suffering because of whatever reasons, maybe because of your health, maybe because of your relationships, maybe because of your financial condition, whatever it is. But you are suffering. Everybody is suffering. The degree to which we suffer might be different, but we cannot argue that I'm not suffering. A person who is going through a depression, anxiety, stress might be suffering a lot. A person who is okay and living a normal life can be suffering a little. But here and there we all suffer. If somebody said something, if certain outcomes of life doesn't happen in a certain way, we suffer. And Vedanta, that is Advaita Vedanta, is an antidote to suffering. As simple as that. What Shankara gave was a medicine to cure suffering. It is as simple as that. That's why it's relevant for all of us. And his Prakarana Granthas, the Viveka Chudamani, Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, they became a foundation for a generation, to understand the truth of Advaita Vedanta. And now when we look at quantum physics and the consciousness studies that are happening across the world, now slowly scientists are coming towards this possibility that universe at a fundamental level, at a quantum level, is energy. It is all connected, it is non-local. All these things, that science is slowly coming to. Shankara clearly explained 1,000 years ago, which was already in the Vedas, even before that. And he confronted boldly, he confronted every major school: Sankhya, Purvamimamsa, Buddhism, Jainism, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika. So every school of thought, he welcomed them into debates, he intellectually took them and argued with them and established. It is said that there were around 112 or 113 different schools of thought within Sanatana Dharma, which were totally fragmented and isolated. And he had to counter argue with all of them to establish Advaita Vedanta as the highest truth. Not by forcing someone, not through a forced conversion, not through exploiting someone, not physically doing something, but just with clarity, with integrity, with debates. He did this. And one very popular story is when he argued with Kumarila Bhatta, who was a very popular, a very significant figure of Purva Mimamsa, where they believed that karma, the Nitya karmas, and basically the uh, ashrama dharmas, it by itself is the highest truth. The rituals, all those aspects of Vedas. And this was an interesting story where the two arguers in this debate decided that the loser adopts the winner's ashrama. This is how they used to do it in the past. When two philosophers came face to face with each other, if somebody loses that argument, and if they are not able to prove themselves and prove that their philosophy is the highest, then they had to voluntarily take up the other person's school of thought, and they need to surrender to that, because clearly that is the higher perspective now, because they are unable to see and establish that their perspective or school of thought is the highest one. So this was a concept back then. And towards the end, the story goes, the Mandana conceded, and he took sannyasa. He was married before, but after this debate, he took sannyasa and he joins Shankaracharya on his mission. And he later on became one of the prominent acharyas who began leading the mathas. And Shankaracharya's primary philosophy is this. Shankaracharya said, knowledge alone liberates. Knowledge alone is the cure for everything. Right? For example, Shankaracharya's point is, so Shankaracharya's point is, if ignorance is the problem, then knowledge should be the cure. If you don't know mathematics, if you don't understand mathematics, if you have the ignorance of mathematics, then the knowledge and the wisdom of mathematics is the cure for that problem. Right? So Shankaracharya's point was simple. Why the reason on why Jnana Yoga or Advaita Vedanta is the highest path, like Shankara said, from his perspective, it was simple, right? The problem with each and every one of us, right here, right now, is that we are unaware of who we are. We are ignorant on our own essential nature. If we can only understand that we are beyond the body and mind, and we are truly limitless, and we are truly powerful, and we can, if we can live from that place, then all our problems will be solved, because all fears are associated with the fear of death, because in some level we believe that we are the body, and all psychological suffering happens at the level of the mind. But if we can understand that we are neither the body nor the mind, then all suffering ceases to exist. This means then the primary problem that we face as humanity is ignorance. If ignorance is the problem, then what is the solution? Knowledge. Right? If darkness is the problem, light is the solution. Ignorance is the problem, knowledge is the solution. How can anything apart from knowledge be the solution? This was his counter argument to the school of yoga of different other schools, including within Sanatana Dharma and outside. For example, in yoga, Patanjali, in the Patanjali Sutras, Patanjali speaks about the Ashtanga Yoga, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and so on. And in certain dualistic schools, they speak about bhakti and devotion. And of course, Shankara was a deep devotee of different aspects of the divine. He composed a lot of devotional works, but his point was ultimately it comes down to knowledge. Ultimately, it comes down to jnana, and devotion can be a very strong foundation for us to get that jnana, or even yoga can be a very strong foundation for us to achieve that jnana. In fact, in Aparoksha Anubhuti, Shankara speaks of the different aspects of yoga, of pranayama. So, in no way he denies that. But all he's trying to say is all these can be preparatory processes, all these can be supportive systems, but ultimately a person has to come to jnana. Because even with bhakti, what ultimately manifests is jnana. Even with yoga, what ultimately manifests is jnana. So, jnana is the highest path, and hence jnana yoga, or the pursuit of Advaita Vedanta, of going deeper and studying that, is the highest path, because we are not indirectly approaching jnana now, we are directly approaching it. So Shankara said, just like fire is the direct means to cook, you can you can prepare, like, a utensil, a carrier, and you can put all the vegetables, the water, the salt, and all the masala to it. But until you switch on the gas, or until you light the fire, nothing is cooked. Like this, Shankara said, Jnana is the fire which makes that cooking happen. Jnana is the direct path to liberation. So that was his point, and it is purely logical. Nobody can deny that, right? Like, because if ignorance is the problem, then knowledge has to be the solution. We will not go deeply into philosophy today, but briefly let's understand what Shankara was trying to say. when it comes to Madhyamika or Shunya Vada of Buddhism, Shankara's point was simple: all phenomena empty of swabhava. Basically what Shankara was trying to say was the reality, the absolute truth cannot be shunya when it comes to Buddhism. So he had his own methodology to defeat each school of thought. To defeat Purva Mimamsa, he uses a different strategy. To defeat Buddhism, he uses a different strategy. Like this, he had various strategies. But when it comes to Buddhism, and some people compare Buddhism to Advaita Vedanta, especially the Shunyata Vada, it's very different. If you go philosophically deeper, it's very, very different. On the surface, on some level, it might sound similar. But Shankara makes this point that what he's speaking about is very different from Buddhism, because the fundamental reality cannot be shunya. We cannot use the word shunya to describe the fundamental reality. Although Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta both say the phenomena of the external world is temporary, and it is, you know, Shankara uses the word Maya. Buddhism, I don't know what they use, but the external world, the everything, in Buddhism there is a concept called dependency, where every phenomenon is dependent on each other, and ultimately it is shunya. It is like it goes back to that. But Shankara's point was, although the world is of Maya, the world is a matrix. It is a simulation that we are living in, this dualistic world. But this doesn't mean that the essence of the world is false. This just means that how we are perceiving the world is false. So the Ishopanishad says, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Which means the world is Purnam, it is complete, it is full. We cannot call this dimension of reality that is complete as nothing or as shunya. So it's in one way exactly the other extreme of what the Buddhism states. And Shankara goes on with his own law explanations on how Advaita Vedanta is superior in its understanding, in its frameworks, and how it gives a positive outlook on life. Because if ultimately the world is nothing, then it leads to a passive life. Then all of us should stop what we are doing, and we should go to a forest and we should live like monks, not doing anything. That is what this will lead to, the negation of the world totally. But Advaita Vedanta doesn't say that. Advaita Vedanta encourages us to live life fully, because the world as a separate thing from us is false, but the world as ourselves is true. The dualistic world is false, but the underlying truth, the underlying oneness in the world is true. So you need to live in the world as business owners, as professionals, as whatever we are. We can live in this world, we can excel at what we do, we can be in abundance, we can achieve success in all dimensions of life and still be detached. There is no need to give up anything. So when we come from this ideology of fullness and completeness and Purnam, there is a sort of positive attitude towards life. There is a meaning to life. Otherwise, life is meaningless. Why should we get married? Why should we raise children? Why should we live in society? Everything becomes meaningless. But Advaita Vedanta gives you meaning, where it says there is the world is ultimately nothing but God, nothing but that Brahman. The misunderstanding of the world is false. So this is the fundamental difference which separates Advaita Vedanta from other schools of thought like Buddhism. And we will skip certain parts which are very deeply philosophical. Someone, if you already have studied Advaita Vedanta and the philosophical differences between different schools of thought, this will make sense. But the uh, problem with Buddhism, he clearly identifies on how consciousness is something that is fundamental, how it is something which is, uh, it doesn't stop anywhere, it doesn't take a break anywhere. There is one fundamental reality which is always there. Now, we will not go into the philosophy of it because it might be very boring for you, but this is very interesting for me. But just look at your own life, right? There is one aspect of you, like I just want to show you how this is very, very practical. Right here, right now, just look at your own life and see that there is one thing in the background that is unchanging, that is always there, that is eternal, right? You get this feeling that when I was young and now and even in future, whatever I will be, there is one aspect of me which is me myself, which is unchanging, which is this pure awareness, which is sort of not changing as I'm growing old. That's why people, when they get old, they say, I don't feel old. I still feel young. I still feel like the same person. The body gets old, the mind gets old, the awareness doesn't get old. So that consciousness is what Shankara says is our true essence. And this is the fundamental difference of Purna and Shunya, the Purnata of Advaita Vedanta and the Shunyata of Buddhism, right? Shunyata is identified with emptiness or void or without any swabhava altogether. Purnata of Upanishads and of Advaita Vedanta of Shankara is Satchit Ananda. It is existence, consciousness, bliss. It is Bhava Rupa. It has a positive connotation to it. It is the presence behind all phenomenon. It doesn't negate life, it makes your life complete. It gives meaning to life. it, it doesn't tell you to stop being a professional or an entrepreneur and become a monk instead. It teaches you to live a happy, joyful, fulfilled life while being a professional and an entrepreneur. That's the difference. And when it comes to yoga and Jainism, we'll not go into great detail, but when it comes to yoga, like I mentioned, Shankaracharya accepts this as a practice, as a sadhana, as a way to purify the mind. He called it chitta shuddhi, the purification of the mind. So, one thing all of us should start doing from today is chitta shuddhi, the purification of the mind. This can happen in various ways through meditation, through intellectual inquiry of Vedanta, through bhakti yoga, where we develop devotion to a deity and a form, or through charity and through social work, where we are contributing positively to the world. There are so many ways to purify our mind, and this in turn makes all dimensions of our life better. This gives us true sense of happiness. And yoga is one method of purification of the mind, is what Shankara accepted. And then a very important thing he did to unite India and to unite our culture of Sanatana Dharma was to unify the different fragments of society. For example, there were Shaivites who were worshipping Shiva. There were Vaishnavites who were worshipping Vishnu. There were Shaktas. There were there was people called Ganapatya who were worshipping Ganapati as their Istadevata. There were people who were worshipping Surya and Skanda and so on. In fact, there were many. What Shankara did was he helped society understand the essence of the Vedas. Vedas and Upanishads were never talking about separation. They were never talking about how Vishnu and Shiva are separate realities. The Upanishads always said, the Vedas always said, time and time again, not in one place, but in hundreds and hundreds of places, they clearly said that there is one truth, there is one reality, there is one consciousness. Now, it may take the form of Vishnu for a certain role, it might take the form of a Shiva or a Shakti or even it might come down to earth in the form of Rama, Krishna, and so on. From this regard, even Jesus Christ is not incompatible with Hinduism, right? Even different religions, different schools of thought can be looked at different expressions of the divine. So, this is how he unifies the culture. He helps people understand through the Vedas, and he shows clear citations and he explains them that you might be worshipping different forms, but don't fight with each other because there is no need to fight with each other. This is the harmony of religions that later Swami Vivekananda speaks of. The underlying truth behind all of these forms is one. There is one God, there is one truth, there is one consciousness that can appear to us in different forms. We can connect with it in different dimensions and forms, but inherently we cannot separate them because there cannot be two gods. The word God stands for infiniteness, it stands for limitlessness. How can there be two infinite things? How can there be two limitless things? The very concept is illogical. So there can be only one God, but we can connect with it in whatever forms. Now, this ideology, this worldview is so profound, is so deep that it resolves all the conflicts. Now take a look at what is happening in the world today. The wars that is happening in Israel and Iran and US, fundamentally it comes down to religion in some way. It comes down to God. Now, God, that is supposed to be the unifying factor, has become the factor of division within society. But the Advaita Vedantic worldview completely shifts this. It says you can be a Christian who worships Christ, and I can be a Hindu who worships Narayana. The God, the underlying truth is one and the same. We are just connecting with it in different ways. We are just using different texts and books to connect with it. So we can coexist together without fighting each other. If this understanding comes to society, imagine where we will go. If we can stop focusing on fighting each other, and if we spend the money, the resources on helping society and educating people and bringing society forward, where will we go? Trillions and trillions of dollars are spent in wars and in divisions and conflict that we can make use of consciously for the betterment of society. Satvik says we have the if we have the ultimate motive to be the eternal, then why should we change the material world? Like, why should we wish to achieve certain goals? No, there is no need as such. That is the point. There is no need to achieve any goals. You are already complete. But that doesn't mean you should not be successful, right? We call this swadharma in Vedanta. For example, as a professional, as an entrepreneur, your swadharma is to be successful in what you do. You can be successful in whatever you are doing. Why will you be a failure? Why will you underperform when you can outperform and you can be exceptional, right? It's not about having goals because internally you feel incomplete and that goals will fulfill you, but it is coming from that place of fullness and just operating from that fullness, which will lead to more and more success in the world. Success as a consequence of fullness, not as a consequence of something that is missing within you. Yes, with that, let's move on. And even when it comes to upasanas, what Shankara said was, what we need to understand here is, all of us, most of you who are today, of course, there are people here from across the world, but those of you who are from India, who are familiar with your pujas and rituals and everything, there is absolutely nothing to be dismissed here. pujas, rituals, worship is extremely powerful. Shankara calls this upasana, right? Saguna upasana. And it is extremely, extremely powerful. But we need to use it as a tool. We should not make it a transactional. We should not treat God like a vending machine where I'm giving a prayer and asking for something. We can use it like that some ways when we are troubled or whatever, but that should not be the ultimate connection with God. Ultimately, we need to evolve to from Saguna Upasana, we need to move to Nirguna Jnana. We need to embody that God and become one with God. We join school to graduate. We don't join school to be in school throughout our lives. Just like that, Saguna Upasana is a means to liberation. But people are just stuck with Saguna Upasana as a dualistic worship, and they just treat it as a transactional activity. Now that is where people miss the meaning and the the real use of worship. And Saguna Upasana should be used to for first Chitta Shuddhi, that is the purification of the mind. And he wrote a lot of things, like we discussed the Brahma Sutra Bhashyas, the devotional works, the canonical works. And with that, let's come to Nirvana Shatakam, and then we will come to the meditation, the powerful meditation to go through together. Jessica says it's the mind that thinks that creates the world we see. Let go of the mind and go within, and you will find what you seek. Exactly, right? It's the mind that creates reality. And there is a neurological, psychological basis to this. Even I forgot that name, the terminology that is used in science, but there is something called as mental models. And science says that we don't perceive reality for what it is, but we perceive reality based on our mental model, right? Based on what we think reality is. So that's very, very true, Jessica. Gani says, I don't like the idea of telling all other religious god as Brahman. Their god does not exist because their god is different from this universe and its creation as a creator. We can have different ideas of what God is, right? And we can debate on which ideology is superior. In fact, we must do that more often. We need to debate more and more to so that the society opens up to the higher and higher truths. But what I'm speaking of is from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, not from a perspective of any other religion, but from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, there is no conflict. There is one underlying God, one underlying truth. You can connect with it in different ways. And my point was, when we begin to see it in this way, the internal conflicts and all the wars, all those things will be resolved, right? Because that is harmony. Ashwin says, if one is in a form or she needs to flow with that form, it needs connections to merge with the one truth. This is why engagement with matter is needed through work, relationships. So if I can understand the comment properly, so what Ashwinji is telling is that to connect with that from where we are, that engagement needs work in the level of Maya, in the dimension of Maya, right? And that is true, because although at the fundamental level we are one with the divine and consciousness, right now we have an unconscious belief that we are separate, and that has given rise to this dualistic experience, and we need to do certain things in this world of matter to reach there. And Nirvana Shatakam, now let's come to the work. That is the Nirvana Shatakam of Adi Shankara. And here, Shankaracharya answers a simple question of who you are. Who are you actually beyond the body and beyond the mind? And we will not go through all the verses, but I will take you through the first verse and the last verse today. And then, because we will spend some time in the meditation and in the Q&A also. The first verse of Nirvana Shatakam goes like this. Shankara says, Mano buddhi hankara chittani naham न च श्रोत्र जिह्वे न च ग्राण नेत्रे न च व्योम भूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानंद रूप शिवोहम शिवोहम. He says, I'm not the mind, not the intellect, not the ego, not the memory. I'm not the ear, tongue, nose, or ear, eyes. I'm not the space, earth, fire, or air. I'm the nature of consciousness, bliss. I'm Shiva, and I am infinite, and I'm limitless. Now he makes use of a methodology called neti neti. He's basically telling us that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, and I'm not the five panchabhutas of which the body and mind is made of, and so on. And finally, now with that, let's come to the final verse. And later on, I'll take you through a philosophical framework on how you can understand this and how you can make this practical in your life. And then we will come to the meditation so that the meditation becomes very, very powerful for you today. And the final verse of Nirvana Shatakam goes like this. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupa vibhutvacha sarvatra sarvendriyanam nacha sangatam naiva muktirna meya chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. I am without modification, without form, by my all pervasiveness, my expansiveness. I am present everywhere, behind all sense organs, behind everything, neither bound nor liberated, nor an object of measurement. I am the nature of consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am the limitless essence. In the first verse, Shankara speaks about what I am not. On the final verse, Shankara speaks about what I am, where he completes the loop. And the framework that is going on here, Karan asks, Chitta means only the mind or does it involve heart? Now, the word Chitta has different meanings in different schools of thought. In yoga, the way Sadhguru explains it is different. But in Vedanta, in Viveka Chudamani, Shankaracharya explains it in a different way. He says, Chitta is one aspect of your mind where deep samskaras and deep tendencies lie. Basically, the impressions that we carry from our previous births, they exist at a very deep level, at the level of chitta. That is how we can understand Karan. Now here, what Shankara is making use of is a framework called as neti neti, which is not this, not this. It is a systemic negation. Right? He says, I'm not the body, I'm not the senses, I'm not the elements, I'm not the breath, I'm not the koshas, I'm not the organs, I'm not the emotions, I'm not the rituals, I'm not my experiences, I'm not death itself, I don't belong to any lineage, I don't have any relations. None of these is who am I, is what he speaks of from verse 1 to verse 5. In the verse 6, he speaks about I am consciousness and bliss. I'm unmodified. I'm formless. I'm all pervasive. I'm neither bound nor liberated. I'm the ultimate truth. Right? We need to clearly understand this from today. If your life, whenever we do a session, our sankalpa is to help you shift your life in some way starting from today. If you're attending this session, if you're going through this meditation and this understanding, your life should change to a certain degree starting from right now. Make this a firm decision. Take this firm sankalpa. You need to move from unconsciousness to consciousness. You need to move from suffering to fulfillment. You need to move from stuckness to success in whatever you're doing as professionals and entrepreneurs. Right? This is something that has to happen to some degree because of the session. Don't just make this, a passing of time. make this a conscious window for evolution to happen. And before we get into the meditation now, what you need to understand is this: whatever you have is something that you are not. I want you to intellectually be clear on this. For example, I have this phone, right? I cannot be this phone. How can I be something that I have? This is the basic logic that I want you to clearly understand. Now, I have this kurta or this top, so I cannot be this. This is something that I have. Similarly, if you contemplate, if you go deep and if you inquire, body is something that you have. That's why you say, my body. You have the sense that body is something that you have. Very naturally, you can feel this. But if you go deeper and deeper through Chitta Shuddhi, through sadhana, through your evolution, what you will be able to find is that the mind is also something you have. The ego is also something you have. That is all Shankara is saying in Nirvana Shatakam. Mano, Buddhya, Hankara, Chittani Naham. I'm not my memory, I'm not my intellect or mind or ego. All these things are something that I have. If I cannot be my shirt, if I cannot be my car, if I cannot be my phone, I can also, by that logic, not be my body and mind, because all these things are something that I've accumulated. That's something I have, not something that I am. What I am is the infinite consciousness, bliss, that limitless essence behind. Right now, it is a theory for you. It's okay. That is where we begin. In Vedanta, we begin from Shravana, from listening to this, from understanding this. Then comes Manana, which is thorough understanding, and then Nididhyasana, that is contemplation, meditation, and embodiment. I think that was the question. Here also, Kavita said, even when we know the Jnana that we are infinite consciousness, sometimes we forget and we entangle ourselves to the ego. How to remain in divine, get stuck. Uh, please help. So this is true, right? This was what I was trying to address. At first, it is just intellectual. You might say, I went through the session, I understood a lot of things, but I didn't change. Still, I didn't become the infinite consciousness. I didn't become extremely happy just because of going through the session, right? You will sense that happiness a little bit in the meditation, in that if you go through it in a deep way. But for now, all I want you to do is to understand it intellectually. Forget about being happy for a while. Forget about any outcomes for a while. Just understand that you are something beyond your body, mind, and intellect. Because not don't take this as a dogma, don't take this as a belief just because I'm saying it, just because Shankaracharya is saying that, but see this for a fact. Your body is literally something that you have, right? If somebody loses their limbs in a accident, they suddenly don't become half of a person. They're still the same person with half the body. Similarly, body is something that we have accumulated and that we have. And at the time of death, you will see this. We will all see this firsthand. We will see that the body is lying there, people are burning it, but we are transitioning into the next part of our journey. It is just that we don't have that experience right now. But in meditation, through contemplation, this can become our experience, right? Many people go through out of body experiences. They experience lucid dreaming. They see that many people are able to see that they're clearly not the body. And intuitively, all of us know this. All of us say, I have the body. So we are not the body. So let's be clear on that first. Sharan says, thank you, Advaita. Really, I'm a teenager and really helped me. Thank you, Saransh. I'm glad this helps. With that, let's come to the next part. Now, from now on, whatever I say, don't intellectualize it, just listen to it. You don't have to repeat it also. Just Keep this in your awareness before we get into the meditation, and then we will come to the meditation. After meditation, we will sit with you for Q&A. Asangoham, asangoham, asangoham. The word asangoham means unattached. This is the conclusion that I want you to come to by the end of the meditation, that you are unattached to anything, that you are free here and now, you are happy here and now. You don't need anything from the world, you don't have to achieve anything, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You are unattached and truly free here and now. That should be the intention. And see who is the one that is continuous always. When you were young to where you are today, the body changed, the mind changed. Who is same? When you are waking, when you are dreaming, when you are in deep sleep, experiences change, but who remains the same? Think about that. The body is the drishya. The body is the object. And whatever is an object cannot be me. The sensation is a drishya. It cannot be me. The thought is a drishya, which is an object. It cannot be me. The I thought, the ego itself is an object to consciousness, and hence it cannot be me. What remains cannot be objectified. That drik, that seer is Brahman. That's who you actually are. We are just theoretically preparing you before the meditation. And so Shankara said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. There is one fundamental reality, there is one truth. Apart from that, everything else is false. All duality is false, all attachments are false, all identifications are false. You are that ultimate truth. Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. You are that infinite consciousness, and attaining that is the highest goal of life that Vedanta calls as moksha or liberation. Right? With that, let's come to oneness meditation. I'll keep all the questions for the end, but let's go through this powerful practice together. If you want to have some water, if you want to just stretch the body, you can take a few seconds here, and then we will play the meditation for you for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Please sit straight and close your eyes. Let's begin the meditation. This is the oneness meditation to experience love and peace. Sit straight, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, let go, and relax your body. Take a deep breath in one more time. Close your eyes. Let go and relax. Take a deep breath in one final time. Let go and relax completely. Now become aware of your head. and the tip of your head, and relax it completely. See this feeling of relaxation spreading throughout your body. See your forehead being relaxed and becoming lighter. This relaxation is spreading to your ears, to your eyes. Your eyes are now relaxing. Your nose, your cheeks, your tongue are all getting lighter. Loosen your jaws, relax your face, then the neck, then the shoulders. Shoulders are going down, they're relaxing. The hands are getting lighter. Your chest, your stomach, your hips, your thighs. Each part of the body is relaxing and it's getting lighter and lighter. Your legs, your feet, your toes, your body is completely relaxed. The nervous system is now getting relaxed. Each cell of your body is now relaxed and filled with lightness and energy. Just see yourself sitting and meditating and being completely still, being completely relaxed, in absolute peace. Now I want you to see yourself sitting in meditation from the outside. Just mentally imagine and see yourself sitting in meditation as you are, and see a beam of light, a beam of bright, white, luminous light glowing and flowing into your body through your head. See this white light entering your body from the top of your head. This is the light of love, this is the light of peace, this is the light of oneness. This is pure consciousness. See this light filling your head, your skull, your forehead. Now, as this is happening, feel that you are getting lighter and lighter. Your entire body, see that it is getting light, and as the light of love is coming in, every form of darkness is fading away. the darkness of anger, resentment, hate, jealousy, division, attachment, expectation, identification. All forms of darkness are dissolving in the light of love and oneness. See this light entering your body, covering your eyes. Your eyes are filled with this light, and you are feeling more and more light. There is no awareness of weight, there is no burden, and the light is seeping in through your nose, through your mouth. Your entire face is filled with light, your face is glowing with light. See this in your mind and accept this and welcome this light with open heart. This light is now flowing through your shoulders. It's relaxing your shoulders even more. Now your hands are filled with this white light, your chest, your stomach, your hips, your thighs, your legs, your feet, your toes. Every aspect of your body, every cell of your body is filled with this white, bright light. See that patterns of darkness dissolving in this light. Darkness is moving out of your body, it's moving away from you. Light and darkness can never stay in the same place. And your body is radiating this white light, it is glowing with this white light. This light of consciousness, this light of oneness, of love and peace has completely taken over you, and you feel absolutely light. Now just drop your shoulders and loosen your chest and see that you're actually free and you're actually light. And see this light expanding. This light of love is spreading to your family, your entire house. It's encompassing people whom you know, your friends, your colleagues. It's expanding even further. This light is expanding to the whole world and beyond. You're glowing so bright that you're encompassing the entire universe in your light. Everyone you know, everyone you do not know, your friend, your ally, your adversary, your competition, everyone is embraced in this light of love. And you see that all conflicts are dissolving, all divisions are dissolving. You are forgiving, you're forgetting, you're unconcerned with anything because you're filled with this blissful awareness and light. For a moment, be in this glowing light and see the entire universe filled with this white, bright light which is radiating from you. Now you feel so light that you begin to float. See your body floating in air a few inches from where you're sitting, filled with light and awareness, with no burden, with no resentment, with no attachment, with only light. You're floating up and up and up. You float. You feel so light. You feel full of love. And you keep floating. See yourself in the sky, floating above the clouds. See yourself floating up and up and up, and see yourself merging into the light of awareness which is beyond the universe. See yourself becoming one with the source, the pure light. Now you don't see yourself at all. There is only light, but there are no boundaries. There are no forms. There is just the light of love, peace, and awareness. There is just this infinite, limitless, boundless light everywhere. You are it, and it is you. There is nothing except this. Be here for a moment. Completely immerse and dissolve yourself in this. Now, slowly, very slowly, you can first rub your hands together to make it a little warm. Then, hold your palms on your eyes, and then slowly you can open your eyes. So, first, please share in the chat how was the experience with the oneness meditation. You can take your time to come back. Think it's not sinking. Yes. Yeah. So Tina says, very nice. Om Namah Shivaya. Gani says, now I can say I'm not that, but all this is I. Peaceful, relaxed. Somebody didn't do it. It's okay. Deeply relaxed. Right? And the point is, it's not that we need to realize the ultimate truth of life in one meditation and in one sitting. Even if you get a momentary glimpse of it, that's so powerful, right? That is so powerful. It at least gives us the evidence that what we are perceiving is the truth. What we are pursuing is the truth. There is the truth. There is a truth to it, which I can uncover layer by layer. And it was just about, many of you are saying it was peaceful, relaxed, pleasant. That's all we actually want from life. Ultimately, whether you are a professional, entrepreneur, a devotee, or whatever, what you are looking for is that pleasantness and that, you know, that joy, right? Yeah, that's what we all want. With that, let's come to a few steps, and then we will take a look at the Q&A. Yes. So again, these next steps are for some of you who want to know about the journey within Advaita Conscious Society, where we help you become a monk at heart and a warrior in action. There are some of the members of ACS here. Of course, this part is not relevant for you, but for others, to understand how to integrate this and to get to your next level, what we call the ideal identity of a person is this, where we can be internally detached and internally peaceful as a monk at heart, and externally focused and intense like a warrior in action. That is the ideal identity to be in. That will lead to your ideal life that we call the abundance of a king and the awareness of a monk. The cause is the identity, or what Vedanta calls your swabhava, and the outcome is the life that you wish to live. Now, to get there, there is a journey of evolution, you know, and that journey is what we segregate into 5 stages within the advanced conscious creation journey that we call awake. And it starts from pratyaya, where we map out your current patterns, what your current swabhava is, what your identity is, what is stopping you from expanding, whether it is at the external level as a professional or an entrepreneur, in your wealth, health, relationships, and inner peace. Vedanta calls it dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the different attainments of life. We understand that every external ceiling is an internal ceiling. So you need to work within to make that change possible. And there are 5 stages to make that change possible. Stage one is pratyaya, which is developing a firm conviction of the process of conscious creation of different layers of reality. Then comes chitta, which is more about developing self awareness and creating a gap between your current identity and who you are. Then comes viveka. Viveka is clarity. Viveka is said to be the most important quality for a seeker, for someone to achieve success, whether as a seeker or as a professional or an entrepreneur. Viveka is clarity about what is real, what is unreal, what is truth, what is the untruth, what I want from life, you know, whatever it is, whether it is truly in alignment with what I wish to experience, or are these superficial conditioned goals. We need to be very, very clear. Most of the goals that you have, most people have, are very, very superficial. It just comes from the conditioning of society and parents and so on. Then comes kriya, which is about internal action, where we introduce you to different advanced systems and processes to integrate this ideal identity, an ideal identity of being a monk at heart and a warrior in action. And samanvaya is about deep integration. It is a place where this is a guided journey for the next 3 to 6 months. So for, of course, this is not for everyone. It requires a certain level of commitment and an alignment with this journey. So there is an application process that our team can share in the chat. And if you are interested in that, you know, you can fill this form. And for Shankara Jayanti, we do something very special every year. We reserve a certain special invite and uh, a special offer to join the foundation or the advanced journeys. So if you are interested in this, fill up this form with your details. And this is for senior professionals, entrepreneurs, or seekers. Apart from these 3 categories, it will not be relevant for others, because this journey is designed for these categories. And entrepreneurs means anything, right? Like any kind of this thing, because we focus on health, wealth, relationships, and inner peace, the 4 attainments. And that is more tangible for a professional or an entrepreneur. And the inner peace and spiritual evolution is extremely tangible for a seeker. Right now, if you're interested in that, in the chat, our team has shared a form that you can fill. But make sure to fill this form immediately, so that we keep this special invite active for the next 24 hours. And our team will contact you tomorrow with all the details. With that, all the questions that you have regarding the journey, regarding whatever we discussed, or anything about your life, please keep sharing them in the Q&A tab. And we will take the questions now one by one. And what happened, in the meditation so far, whatever you have understood, it's a recognition, right? Recognition of truth. And a few of you here will be ready to move from recognition to building the architecture, building the foundation to make it more and more real in your life. With that, let's come to the Q&A. And let's come to the questions. Please keep adding them to the chat. Tilda says, I can ask in Q&A, sorry. You can ask the questions in the chat. It is taking some time for me to look at it in the back end here. Gaming says, but for actual pleasantness, one must meditate for years and master their virtue and acquire discipline and align with the physical body. Now, of course, what you're telling is right. There is no shortcut as such for it, but Vedanta is in one way the direct means. That's what Shankaracharya said. You can unconsciously meditate for decades and still not go closer to the truth if you just use meditation as a tool, as a technique. But if you bring in that process of understanding intellectually what this journey is about, what you're pursuing, the patterns of your swabhava, how to navigate it with the right and in the right environment. In Shankaracharya once said, Satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatve nischalatatve jivan mukti. Even the highest goal of human life happens in the right environment, with the right people, in the right community. So a lot of factors come into play. Although you are right in a way to say that it takes years, it can be accelerated with the right systems, with the right environment, and so on. Kavita says, how many times do you do the meditation and how long you do? I don't understand what meditation, but if you're asking in general, for general meditation, what we at Advaita Conscious Society, we have something called as the awareness meditation. We also have it for free on YouTube, which you can search for and practice. And I personally practice meditation 30 minutes a day, once a day. That's what I do. Sometimes twice a day, but mostly once a day. But that's up to you. Meditation is very flexible. Richard says, amazing. Thank you, Richa. I'm glad you liked the session. Tilda says, right when it came to the meditation, my lawn mower guy appeared and the loud noises and dog disturbed me. You can watch the recording. This will be accessible for free on YouTube. But on YouTube, the problem is ads. But Tilda, you are within Advaita Conscious Society, right? We have access to this. You have access to this meditation in the app. So in the Advaita app, go to the resources section, and we have all the meditations there. So you can practice that there, Tilda. You can access it whenever you want. Let me check for the old questions also. Karan had asked, if everything is oneness, then why the separation of materialism and spiritualism? There is no separation of materialism and spiritualism. That's the point that we make at Advaita Conscious Society. When we look at world as something that we need to give up, then this difference comes between materialism and spiritualism. But when we perceive the truth from the point of view of Advaita Vedanta, everything is spiritual. Your relationships are spiritual. Your career is spiritual, your wealth is spiritual, everything is spiritual. There is no separation. That's why we say be a monk at heart and a warrior in action. Pursue wealth, pursue success, pursue relationships, and so on. But we need to come from dharma, the four attainments of life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Vedanta just asks us to come from a place of dharma, of righteousness, of morality, where we are not infringing on someone else's free will and exploiting anyone. But apart from that, we can do anything in life. Nothing is unspiritual per se. Saransh had asked, I want to ask you that you said that time is non-existent and we need to go beyond it. Can you explain it more? And also, what are all the infinite universe? time is not existent for consciousness, time is existent for the body and mind. So when we go, like when you touch that dimension within you, which is what Vedanta calls as consciousness, as Satchidananda, for that there is no time. That's all I meant. I don't know what infinite universe is and what you're referring to there. Irene says, "You're awesome." Thank you, Irene. You're also awesome. We're all awesome, right? Because we're all the infinite consciousness. Yeah, Ashwinji, thank you for this, for attending the session. Love Kush says, "How does matter come from consciousness?" Matter doesn't come from consciousness through the worldview of Vedanta. Matter appears in consciousness. It's like when you go to dream, and when you dream different dreams, when you interact with different people, when you, let's say, you walk through the forest within your dream when you're asleep. Now, how can you answer, how does the matter come from consciousness in your dream, right? Like the trees in the forest, the people in your dream, how do they come? So the point that Vedanta makes is matter is not matter, matter is energy, right? Matter is non, even at a quantum level, even science is saying that reality is non-local, everything is just an appearance. So that is Maya. Just like in the dream we perceive a reality where we feel like there is rigidity, there is matter, there are objects, there is separation, there is a real experience. Even here we have, we are experiencing this matter, this duality, this separation, but underneath all of it is that energy, is that consciousness. Gaming says, in Vedanta, was there any text pointing gold to Vishnu and Mercury as Shiva? I'm not aware of this. Vedanta doesn't focus on all this. Vedanta is more philosophical, it is more intellectual, and it is more, it explores the deeper truths of reality. And Kavita says, surrender, please say a few words about it. Yes, surrender is a very beautiful thing, right? Surrender can change your life completely. But the problem is when we say surrender, if you are if you are not accustomed to upasana, what are you surrendering to? You need something to surrender to. To surrender to that invisible, formless consciousness that is within yourself, for most people it's difficult because it's intangible, it's not something that they can conceive immediately. Surrender works powerfully well in my own life, and I've seen it with so many members of Advaita conscious society. Surrender works really really well for upasakas. If you can have a DT Kavita, Shiva, Shakti, whatever God resonates with you, whatever form and whatever expression of God. And if you can build a relationship with it, if you can develop a connection with it, right? Every day, if you can connect with it more and more, and if you can speak to it like you would speak to your spouse and your children, and then begin to surrender to it, now that is truly powerful because for your mind, there is something very tangible to hold on to and to surrender. Without that, surrender just becomes a word that people use. There can be a surrender to that consciousness that is within us. For a very sophisticated seeker who is intellectually oriented, that can be possible. But for general purposes, upasana is a very powerful thing to purify the mind and to practice surrender. And the puja, the rituals, starting from today, do it with awareness, do it with involvement, do it with surrender, do it with absolute intensity. And it changes your relationship with God. Dhyana is equal to meditation. Hard to do. With practice, meditation becomes possible for all of us, right? Maybe not instantaneously, but there are methods in which we can first calm the mind and then practice meditation. There are different things that we can do, but in the beginning, it might be there might be a resistance. Preeti says, what is the importance of mantras in Advaita Vedanta? Mantras comes more in upasana, that is devotion and practice and the purification of the mind. So for the preparation, all of that is very important. And even Upanishads and these teachings are sometimes given in the form of mantras. But again, Jnana Yoga itself, the intellectual inquiry itself that Shankara speaks of, that's more about the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the intellectual understanding, the thorough conviction and embodiment through meditation and contemplation. So mantras are secondary there. It's a foundation. It's like a preparatory process, but not the core of Jnana Yoga. Even all of you who, if you had shared your questions in the beginning, in the past, please share those questions again. Yeah, thank you, Tilda. You can go. Uh, so please share those questions again, because we are finding it difficult to search through it. So you can share the previous questions that you have shared before throughout the session again, if it was unanswered, if you want it to be answered. Yeah, thank you, Kavita. You're welcome. So, what are we acquiring knowledge through Advaita Vedanta? Is it Vratha or Japa? I don't understand the question clearly. We It is Brahma Jnana. Jnana Yoga is about Brahma Jnana. It's about your true self. Vratha or Japa are totally different things. Jnana Yoga is about understanding who you are in your essence, the real aspect of you, the infinite, limitless reality that is you. Sudhakar asks, if already I'm doing other meditation, is it okay to continue along with this meditation? It's totally fine. We at Advaita Conscious Society, there is no dogma. The practices that we offer is completely, very flexible. You can practice it with anything else. It doesn't matter. Gani says, why Maya take over so fast? Also, a few words on Maya. So, it's true that Maya takes over very, very fast, right? Like it holds us in its trap because we are used to it. We are conditioned from childhood, from hundreds of lifetimes, that this is the reality, and our own beliefs and our own convictions on reality holds us back. And if I have to speak about Maya is just Swami Vivekananda describes Maya in a very simple way. He says Maya is time space reality, right? Time space and causality, sorry, time space and causality. The sense of time we experience is Maya. The sense of space, for example, I'm sitting here, you are sitting there, there is a gap between us. Now this is Maya. Causality, cause and effect, because cause and effect is, for every seed there is a tree, for every tree there is a seed. So this cause and effect, these are the aspects of Maya. You remove these three things, now then we end up with the actual reality, that is consciousness. So mind is a product of Maya, but who you actually are, Gani, that is beyond Maya, that is beyond time, beyond space, beyond causality. So you don't have a birth to you, you don't have a death to you. You are eternal. You are not bound by time. You are not bound by space. You are not limited to one particular body or any particular point in time space reality, but you are in and through everything. That's the ultimate realization that comes with liberation. Mandar Pimparkar says, Yogharato va, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavidhinaha. Yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva. How to incorporate this verse in real life? Now this verse comes from, I'll just come back to this question. I had something in my mind for this. I'll just come back to this. Which is better, Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga? It depends on you, right? Which is better for you will be the better question. The better question to ask is, which is good for me? You need to look at yourself. For Mirabai, Jnana Yoga was irrelevant. For in my life, for example, for Shankara, for Shankaracharya, so Jnana Yoga was the highest path. From my perspective, from my exploration, Jnana Yoga is the highest path, because even Bhakti, like Shankara says, leads to Jnana ultimately. It leads to Jnana of divine and the abidance of divine. But that doesn't mean Jnana Yoga is for everyone, right? But in one way, we can approach Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga together. What Vivekananda said is, we need not choose one path exclusively. We can walk these paths together. We can integrate different paths, which makes this journey even more powerful. So you need to ask, Hina, what kind of a person are you? Are you a devotee where you love the connection with God, the prayers, the songs, the dances? Are you such a person, or are you very intellectual? Without quenching your intellectual thirst, you are unable to accept things? Or do you don't want to do all that? You want to work on your body and mind through yoga, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and so on. So it depends on person to person. Yeah, thank you, Gani. uh, Rajat says, is birth death not the same thing, like two sides of the same coin? Yeah, in one way for the body, but it is ultimately meaningless for consciousness, right? There is no birth, there is no death at all. It's just for the body. For from our perspective, from a limited perspective, we see that. Jessica says, I'm not sure why I thought I should quit my job, but I have felt that I can surrender to the one consciousness which should take care of me. I've realized I'm in the Father, God, and not. I'm not sure why I thought I should quit my job. Now, you need to be very careful, Jessica, because I've interacted with you within the community, within ACS, right? I know what you're going through. At these times, when you need to be very careful while you take a decision. When you say consciousness takes care of me, you mean you yourself will take care of yourself, right? Vedanta is about responsibility. It is not about delegating the responsibility. Now, if your needs are limited, if you are, in the sense, if you're financially free, where there is a certain amount of money that is coming to your bank account every month through your retirement plans or through investments or whatever, and then if you want to retire and quit your job, then go ahead, and totally fine. You can live below your means, and because anyways, that's up to you, right? Your lifestyle is your choice. But if you're just, if financially you're unsecure, and if there is nothing to fall back on, just because you have this realization that you are consciousness, and like, understand what you're going through, because of this, don't take an immediate decision which will affect your life in a wrong way. Let it settle. Let Take a sankalpa, take an intention to manifest an ideal life for yourself. Just take a sankalpa. Within ACS, there is a journey. There is a 28-day mandala that you can complete, where we guide you with the exact same thing. You can take a sankalpa and you can bring it to fruition slowly. You can surrender that sankalpa to that consciousness, and basically take a sankalpa that I want to quit my job. I don't find interest anymore, but at the same time, financially, I need to be free and I need to be taken care of. So this is my intention to live my life of freedom, fulfillment, and clarity. And I expect the universe to take care of me, and so on. Like, we have a life blueprint creation process. I think you would have gone through that, but take that sankalpa in a strong way, then surrender it, and then let it settle, let it sit, and slowly manifest in your life. And then you can take a decision. Don't take it immediately. Shah says, during meditation, when you get a comfortable feeling and certain voice whispers to you, would you say that is the divine? We can say it is the divine. We can use different words for it. It's better to call it intuition. It's better to call it your own essence, your higher self. You can say it's the divine in one way, because whatever is higher, truth, it is divine. Especially if it makes you feel good, if it gives you, if it's taking you in a positive direction, that's that. Shruti says, when people some people will not know why they are giving birth to kids, unconsciously they conceive. Should we not compare their life with the ones who cannot conceive? How to interpret this thought and be aware? Some people will not know why they are giving birth to kids, unconsciously they conceive. Yeah, I understand. Should we not compare their life with the ones who can't conceive? I don't understand the question. Like, the if the question is unconscious conception, there is elaborate description of this in uh, Garbha Samskara. There are certain Upanishads and scriptures dedicated to how you need to conceive, and how to conceive in the right way, to bring in the right kinds of children in the world consciously. Unconscious conception, which is a result of unconscious desires and lust, will see, however you operate, such an energy you attract for yourself. If a couple is unconsciously conceiving, they are welcoming such a kind of a soul, or that jivatma into their lives, who is also unconscious, who also has a lot of baggage, who also has certain unconscious tendencies, because of which they suffer. It's always better to do things consciously, whatever it is, whether it is drinking water or whether it is conception conscious. That's why our entire focus within ACS, within Advaita Conscious Society, the main framework we teach is conscious creation, which is creating things consciously, which is the most important skill to learn. Rajat says, does detachment lead to law of attraction? More attraction of desire happen when you that definitely, definitely. But we don't use the word law of attraction because it's been corrupted in so many ways. We call it conscious creation, right? Have a sankalpa, have an intention. When you let go of it, we come from a. It's a very important question, Rajat, and I think all of you, this will be very important. Whatever desires you have in life, whatever sankalpa you have, it might be for your financial freedom, it might be for health, wealth, relationships, and so on. When you think about it from the place of manifestation, law of attraction, it is very superficial, it is very limited, and you're coming from a place of scarcity. You're creating that desire because at some level you're coming from the awareness that you don't have it. But what Vedanta says, that you cannot manifest fullness from a place of incompleteness. You need to start from completeness. To start from completeness, you need to detach. You need to take a sankalpa that I will live a life of abundance and freedom and fulfillment, and then you need to surrender it. Once you surrender, that's done. Whether it happens or not, whether it comes or not, it doesn't matter to you. Now, from at that place, you're already full, you're already complete, you're already abundant. That is when, interestingly, things begin to come to you, right? That's the science of manifestation. When you let go and when you come from a place of fullness, you manifest. Dinesh says law of attraction and subconscious mind are real. Does that mean astrology is false? And if astrology is true, does that mean these practices are not useful? It seems like a contradiction. That's why I said any surface knowledge, any kind of half knowledge is dangerous. Law of attraction is an incomplete framework. Hence it is dangerous. Astrology, the way people understand it at least, is incomplete. That's why it's dangerous. That's why when we talk about conscious creation at Advaita Conscious Society, what we say is law of attraction is also true in its own way at some level, at a certain level. Astrology is also true in its own level. What is actually happening is karma. Karma is a basic law of cause and effect. See, today, many of you attended the session. Let's say 200, 300, whatever number of people attended, came and went. Now, let's say there are two people today who both came from the same place, who both were professionals, both were stuck, both were addicted with a lot of things. But today's session changed something in them. One person decided to change their life, take conscious action, begin conscious creation, and learn to how to transform their swabhava, and evolved into a different kind of a person slowly by detaching themselves and taking the right sankalpas and moving in a different direction. For such a person, in the next 3 years their life will be completely different. But let's say another person came to the same session and they decided this is all good to listen, but it is not practical, and let's say they continued with their same life of unconsciousness, their addictions and so on. Now where they will end up in the next 3 years is a very different place. This is karma, and this is what astrology predicts. Based on your actions your life is determined. This is what law of attraction says at one level. This is what astrology says at another level. Astrology is predicting your past actions from previous lifetimes. Law of attraction is talking about your present actions in this lifetime. Conscious creation, through conscious creation, we understand both. There are certain actions that we have performed in the past lifetimes, which has resulted into something called as prarabdha karma, because of which we have the parents that we have, the body that we have, the certain life circumstances are are in certain way. Certain things are very difficult to change. Some are almost impossible to change. These are a result of prarabdha karma. For example, if you are a grown man and if your height is 6 feet, now you cannot become 5 feet or 7 feet. It's prarabdha. It's no matter how much you think. There are extreme examples of certain yogis and rishis who, through siddhis, do some extraordinary things. But keeping that aside, for all normal people, let's call it impossible or next to impossible. Now, that is what astrology predicts. Astrology is a science. Although most people who are practicing this today, it's a scam. They are just, at a surface level, they are doing it as a business. But there are a few deep, authentic astrologers who can map out these patterns that you carry from the past lives. Based on that, they determine what kind of a personality you have and what kinds of circumstances are there in your timeline. It's as simple as that. So both of them, law of attraction and astrology, are talking about karma only, but at different dimensions. Santosh says, while I meditate, I start to move forward. What does it mean? I don't understand. Different people have different kinds of reactions to meditation. Some people see light, some people initially have certain resistant thoughts, some people move in a physical way. That's totally fine. You can just go through it and then see where it takes you, Santosh. Rajat says there's a book on letting go, and Astavakra Gita talks about the same thing. You already there. Yes, you can achieve financial goals using spiritual knowledge. Now, that's the intelligent thing to do. Most people, this is the biggest you know, mistake that people do. They believe that if they are not if they are spiritual, they should not have money, they should not pursue wealth. This is a very strong internal conflict within professionals and entrepreneurs who are spiritual within. It's extremely it's completely wrong, right? Spirituality and everything is one. If you want to pursue something, we need to pursue it fully, because a spiritual person will only use the money in the right way. They will use the money to help their family, their, contribute to society in positive ways. So it's definitely, we can use spiritual knowledge for financial freedom. Yes, I think the questions are pretty similar. Team, please share the link to the form again for people who want to learn this and apply this. So all of you, if you want to go deeper, you can explore the advanced journeys that we have within Advaita Conscious Society, especially if you are a professional and entrepreneur. The question is, I really want to achieve abundance and simultaneously focusing on conscious creation. Can we achieve both at the same time? That is conscious creation. Doing both simultaneously is is what we call the conscious creation journey, Santosh. Conscious creation is not Conscious creation is a process where we focus on developing two qualities: the uh, the internal ability of a monk, right? To be a monk at heart and a warrior in action. So both at the same time. The process is conscious creation. And for all of you who are interested, our team has shared the form again, which you can fill and apply, and our team will get back to you. But there is certain qualifications for the higher journey. Only if you are suited for that, you will be contacted. But for the foundational journey, anybody can begin. Rajat says that in Ashtavakra Gita, it tells us that we are not affected by anything, including our actions. We are only witnessing it. Does it impact our lives? It impacts your lives. It impacts completely, right? Because if we understand that what affects what is affected by our actions is our body and mind, not consciousness. As long as you are the body and mind, you are affected by your actions, you are affected by your karma. But when you go beyond, when you understand that you are that limitless consciousness, how can karma affect that? From that understanding, you will never do any wrong action, because you will see everybody as yourself. You cannot logically do any wrong action. So Ashtavakra Gita is a very high truth, where Ashtavakra speaks from the highest perspective. What he's telling is, we can go wrong here. We should be very careful while understanding Ashtavakra Gita. Ashtavakra, when he says we are not affected by anything, including our actions, this doesn't mean that I can go and I can steal from someone, I can kill someone, I can do something wrong with to others, and I'll not be affected by it. That will definitely affect you. It will affect your body. It will corrupt your mind. You will face the consequences, because your body will be put in jail. Your mind will suffer. You will manifest the same outcomes in your life. So, what Astavakra is speaking about is a higher truth, where he's talking about how karma can affect my body and mind, but not who I am, not the consciousness. So, from that understanding, a yogi, a jnani will never do anything wrong. He will only take take the right action, and that understanding changes everything. It impacts your life completely, because once you understand that you are untouched and nothing affects you, that gives you a tremendous sense of freedom and clarity in life. Ace N says, Sir, I don't know why I always fear something. How to remove fear of judgment, what people think about me, how to manage it. Fear is very common. All of us go through it. And to be very honest with you, some of these questions, right, I can give you answers, but it requires you to stay with this for some time. It is not, there are no shortcuts for this. But one quick way to deal with fear is faith. Faith and fear are opposites. It's like light and darkness cannot stay in same place. Fear and faith cannot stay in same place. If you develop a connection with divine in whatever form, some kind of devotion with that consciousness that is within, or with that God, which is the creator. Now that develops faith within you, and the more faith you have within your mind, the less fear you have. And you can just use this as a indicator within your life. If you're experiencing fear, just take it as an indicator that I'm moving away from faith. I'm moving away from understanding and love. Because wherever there is faith, wherever there is love, there cannot be fear. So use fear as an indicator to tune yourself back to faith. Now, with that, we will come to the end of the session. Uh, Subconscious mind programming is myth or true? How can we do such programming and achieve miracles? It is true. See, subconscious programming, all these are terminologies that are used by the Western frameworks. Vedanta calls it by different names. For example, Sri Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Gita, Bandhuratmat manastasya enatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. If you conquer yourself, you conquer the world. If you conquer yourself, you are your best friend. If you don't conquer yourself, you are your worst enemy. Krishna says, basically, he's talking about the subconscious, the deeper identity, the swabhava that is you. Vedanta uses the word swabhava. The Western for terminologies used subconscious and so on. But if you work at that level, now that is what this journey is about. That is what conscious creation is about. That can make what ideally can happen, what generally happens in decades, that evolution, that acceleration can happen in a matter of months or years if you approach this in a systematic way. Now, how to do programming? It's not a single technique. We have 5 stages to it. I will take you through it again. I will explain it to you. But if you are interested to go through it in a much deeper way, you can apply for that journey. But there are five stages to this, working on the subconscious and the identity. Santosh says, does meditation only can help us grow in both and abundance and spiritual journeys? It depends on how you use it. Meditation, it's a, the real meaning of meditation is dhyana, that is just awareness. It's more about, it's different. But how the modern world uses the term meditation, it's more like a tool. So how you use it, your sankalpa is what manifests. The Brihadaranyaka says, as a man's sankalpa or a desire is, so is his destiny. So what is your intention? If you want abundance, then you can use meditation for that also. Yeah, Letting Go is a powerful book by David Hawkins. Yeah, which is purely about letting go and surrender. It is a very good read. It is truly truly powerful. Yeah, and it's highly recommended. Yeah, Yoga Rathova, Voga Rathova, correct. So that verse comes from, I remember, it comes from Bhajagovindam, right? And the meaning of it goes something like this. I just pulled it up. The translation of it is, whether one is engaged in yoga or enjoyment, in company or alone, he whose mind abides in Brahman, he is the one who truly enjoys. Right? Now, that is the translation of that verse, which means you can be, as professionals and entrepreneurs, you can pursue wealth, you can pursue relationships, you can pursue any number of things, power, politics, whatever in the world. As long as your mind dwells in consciousness, as long you understand what can truly fulfill you is within you, then you will be happy. Otherwise, if you get attached to things outside, if you get attached to bhoga, that is enjoyment and pleasures and different things in the external world, then you suffer. That is the meaning of the verse, and it's pretty profound, right? That's what we need to ultimately understand. Ultimately, everything is within. Thank you, everyone. Divinity asks, what is our real self and how can we identify it? That was the entire session, Divinity. I don't know whether you were there for the entire session. I cannot cover the entire thing again, but the entire 2 hour session was about what is our real self and how we can identify it. We also went through a deep meditation. We talked about the 3 stages and everything. You can watch the recording if you want to understand further. Rajat says, do we need to learn Sanskrit to understand these verses, or can we just read the translation? To be very honest with you, even I'm not an expert in Sanskrit. I can just read Sanskrit verses. I can just understand certain meanings here and there. But even I rely on translations. But we need to rely on authentic translations. So there is the Gita Press, there is Chinmaya Mission, there is Ramakrishna Mission. These 3 are the places that I refer to. There are a lot of misconceptions, there are a lot of distortions, so please refer to the authentic sources. And what you're doing, see Rajat, this is a journey of, like, let's say 3 to 5 years. So what, are you a seeker who just wants to understand scriptures, or are you a professional or an entrepreneur who wants to accelerate your journey? So depending on that, you need to make a choice on how to approach this. And in fact, that was the goal of us building Advaita Conscious Society, so that we can synthesize this, and what people take years to get to can happen in a matter of weeks and months through the right direction, through the right guidance, and so on. Santosh says, it can be silly question. Does awareness means every time I am aware of my action, breath is it, or something else? Awareness, see, breath is an object to awareness. What is behind the breath is the question, right? Breath is the object, it is the witness. What is breath is the breath is the object. What is the subject? What is experiencing breath? What is seeing the breath? Now that is awareness. That is the slight distinction. So thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's session. I hope it was valuable for you. Someone where had asked for the 5 the subconscious and the identity stages. Let me quickly cover this, and our team will leave the form for you in the chat one last time for those of you who joined now to begin this advanced journey. So these are the 5 stages of evolution that we take individuals through in 3 to 6 months, from pratyaya to chitta to viveka, kriya, and samanvaya. This is where we go deep into the subconscious and work on our identity at the foundational level. And that is the entire point of Gita, where Krishna says, if you conquer yourself, you conquer the world. Because the entire world can stand against you and you can still win. But if you stand against yourself, you will never win in life. So this journey is about conquering yourself. Pratyaya is stage 1. It's about building firm conviction through foundational understanding. Chitta is about different systems and processes where we develop self awareness and create a gap from our current identity. Viveka is about developing clarity on what our swadharma is, what we should pursue in life, what our ideal life is, and what is the truth and what is untrue. And Kriya is about internal action through different systems. We have something called as dharana, we have something called as aikya, we have different advanced processes, guided systems where we, through meditation and through guidance, we take you deep into the subconscious and shift something there consciously. And then samanvaya is about integration. It is about integrating your ideal identity. And the ideal identity is this: to be a monk at heart and a warrior in action. I truly wish that for you. And I truly wish that each and every one of us can become this ideal identity. From today, that is what you must aim for. You must begin to become a monk at heart and a warrior in action. When it comes to your job, when it comes to your life, you need to be focused, disciplined, and consistent. But yet, internally, things happen or not, if some things take time, you should be extremely patient, extremely balanced, extremely detached. That's the ideal identity that I wish for all of you. And that's what this journey is about. And let's end with this Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Right? We are that infinite consciousness, the bliss, the absolute. And the goal is to recognize that and live that. And we'll take one final question before we go. Divinity asks, what does true balance really mean? Is it the harmony between the stillness of Shiva and the dynamism of Shakti within, or is it about transcending both and enter the higher state of consciousness? No, there is no transcending both. It's like everything is consciousness. From the Vedantic perspective, Shiva and Shakti as two different aspects of reality is looked at from the yogic perspective, from the yogic school of thought. From Advaita Vedanta, there is just oneness. Shiva and Shakti are ultimately one. It is consciousness alone. Shakti is just an appearance, it's just Maya, and consciousness alone is everything. And it's about this, it's about becoming a monk at heart and a warrior in action. And like Tushar says, I'm not a fragment of the universe, I am the universe. Right? Let's end with that profound thought. You are not a fragment in the universe, you are the entire universe. Thank you for tuning in. I hope the session was valuable, that something within you shifted, and I will see you inside Shivoham.